the silent rejection, what men are missing, and how to actually fix it. Most men today think that women are rejecting them by the numbers for reasons that they try to come up with in their mind. But there is a truth behind all of this, and that what they don't understand is that most men don't realize is that the rejection really starts with themselves, because they actually reject themselves first. And it's just that when they get around women on the dating and all that other stuff, women just confirm what men already believe about themselves. And if you walk into a situation, when you meet a woman, whether it's a bar or it's a club, it's anywhere, and you don't believe in yourself, you've already rejected yourself. And hoping that somebody chooses you, or being afraid that a woman is going to turn you down, walk away from you, or do something do something to you, even before she says a single word, is part of the reason why a lot of young guys are going through the problems that they're going through. Because what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to this game is that women, they don't create your confidence. They don't. At the end of the day, the honest truth is women don't create this thing, but what people is hard for people to accept is that women actually respond to it. And women are not the ones that destroy your self-worth. All they do is just follow your lead. So today what we're going to actually talk about is why most guys out here have this self-rejection for themselves, and how to actually turn around and flip that around and become the one that actually gets chosen. And this is why the game is actually so important, guys. Steve Dean Williams. I've been doing this for over 3 decades, teaching guys the game through live videos and everything like that. And gentlemen, if you want to check me out live, you can. We're live where you can call in and ask questions, and we'll do everything we can to put you in the proper position to actually win in the game when you want to learn the game. So most people out here have one of the greatest misinterpretations of dating when it comes today. They've done this in 2024, they've done this in 2025, and they're going to do this next year, gentlemen. And they're going to feel like dating has changed. The dating landscape is terrible. Dating has changed, and there is a problem with dating and everything. And the thing that they cannot accept from their reality is dating hasn't changed. And the shocking thing is women haven't even changed. It's just that the interactions have changed. Human attraction hasn't changed. It's always been the same, and it's never changed. Because what people don't understand is that there's nothing new under the sun. The only thing that's brand new in all of this is actually technology, and that's it. And what has changed out here is, unfortunately, guys and how they look at things. And not because women are actually different, it's because men are living a life through different scenes and screens and mindsets. Too many guys today spend so much time watching other men that can't get women talk about dating and situations where they like mess guys up by saying, okay, I'm going to teach you a method or a theory or something like that, versus teach these young men to tap into their own source. And that's where the problem comes at. A lot of guys out here are sitting around getting nothing but bad information when it comes to relationships, and actually when it comes to women, and they don't even realize that. Then what they do is they're not actually learning anything. They're not actually improving. They'll sit on YouTube, or they'll scroll through a TikTok or Instagram, and they'll look at somebody and they'll look at his subscriber count or something like that. And what they will start to do, unfortunately, is they will start to memorize a phase, or they'll look at a tactic or something like that. But that's not who they are. And then they start to regurgitate words that have nothing to do with them. And then when a man does these things and then starts to interact with a woman, then he actually fails and messes up. And the problem is not dating. It's just that these guys just don't know who they are. And when a man doesn't know it himself, he's automatically going to do what? Reject himself. And the rejection is the doubt that he has. And what most guys go wrong is that people don't understand is that most of these guys out here actually abandon themselves first. That's where the rejection comes from. Because the thing about the game that people don't understand and people don't see when it comes to this is that you are supposed to learn who you are through you being authentic. You're not trying to pretend to be something that you're not, or try to be something that you want the world to see you as. And the problem is what has happened since the dawn of the pickup artists and everything like that, what they've tried to do is they've tried to funnel all these young men into this certain kind of box, saying this is what you have to be, and this is what you have to think, and this is what women are all. And a lot of guys get a lot of bad information. And because of the bad information of thinking and thoughts, again, the guys that teach theory and the pickup artists, what they'll do is they'll take things and they'll try to change your vocabulary up to suit the false theory that they're trying to give a young man. So then it changes up his interpretation of things. They'll, again, with frames, they'll take a frame. They say a man needs to be in his frame. But when you're growing up, all you know is a frame is something you put on the wall. But then you watch a YouTube that says you got to stay in this thing called a frame. But when you have the mindset of a frame being on a wall, then that's the disruption of the mindset, and that kind of disrupts what you think about yourself. Because if all your life you knew a frame was something that you put on a wall, then all of a sudden they're saying you got to be in a frame. That's going to change everything up in these young men, and that's what's happening for so many men, even in the 90s into the early 2000s, on and so forth and so on. That has been happening to a lot of young men, where they're getting the wrong information, wrong interpretations, and seeing things actually the wrong way. And this is what is messing everything up, because if you think about sports, like a quarterback getting a brand new offensive coordinator that changes a run and shoot defense offense into a West Coast style a West Coast style offense. So the individual trying to bring in all this information is then jumping on YouTube, grabbing more information on things that is just going to confuse them that much more. They're so busy looking at plates and saucers and pills, and they're so busy looking at thought processes, or looking at what women think here and what women think there and what I should do here. So all this information they're bombarding themselves with a lot of information from the outside, but it's not sticking to who they are on the inside. And then by the time they start to get all this information, and by the time they start to actually talk to a woman, they're so confused on everything that they then at that point believe that they're not enough, okay? And when they don't believe they're enough, guess what's gonna happen? The woman is gonna see that they're not enough. And because they reject themselves, the woman rejects them. And then they then go back on the internet and then start the process all over again. And see, rejection, the thing about rejection, it stings because for a lot of these guys out there, it just confirms the belief that they already had. And it wasn't about the woman, it was actually about themselves. They knew exactly what they were in the situation. It's just they would lie to themselves and think they're more than what they actually are. And the pain isn't from the moment that the woman said no, or said I had a boyfriend, or said I wasn't interested. No, that's not where the pain comes from. The pain comes from the moment the individual actually wrote this story in his head. He created this false story in his head of his interpretation of what he thought the world should be through his lens. Remember, what a lot of people will do when they don't understand themselves and they go around and grab a lot of bad information, what they'll do is they will create a story in their head of what they think the world is. But in the story that they create a story that is a perfectly well-written story, that everything is fine with them, and they pull out all the details that are major. They take out the details of them not having confidence. They take out the details of fear, anxiety. They're not decisive. They're not dominant. They take all these things out and create this false narrative in their head. And then the moment they see a woman and then they try to present themselves, then they are that much more confused and wondering why she's not interested in him. And that's where the pain comes from. It comes from the stories that they actually build in their head. And when you build these stories in your head and everything, gentlemen, that's where the problem is. And then they sit around and beat themselves up by saying, guess what? I guess I'm not good enough, or I guess I'm not what she's wanted, or there has to be something wrong with me. And again, gentlemen, I've always said there's really nothing wrong with you. It's just how you're actually interpreting everything. And for guys out here, is that they choose not to actually look at themselves. And this is why two different men can approach a woman at the same time and get completely different results. A man that is one thought, one mind, one way, that doesn't jump on YouTube, that tries to find a quick fix or a gimmick or something like that, he is going to have better chances with a woman, because a woman's going to notice his authenticity versus a guy that uses the same pickup lines, same gimmicks, but looks at women in a certain way. And the moment he looks at a woman a certain way, he's already lost the battle, because the woman's already going to recognize that he's not that guy. And the guy that has a game is automatically going to assume that, you know what, I belong here. This is the interaction we're going to have. I'm the guy, and it's all about me. Versus the guy who is taking a lot of information. And even the bad information is not good, especially from the red pill and manosphere, because these guys listen to all this bad information, and then deep back in the back of their head, they're worried about that thing, that boogeyman that was created by somebody on the internet, that a woman's going to do some mean mythical thing to them. So that all plays a role in how he actually interacts with the women. And that's why so many of these guys are having all these problems with women. And see, I think what a lot of young men don't get is that they don't get rejected because of the looks and money, but they'll use it as a reason because that's what they create in their head. The problem is they get rejected by the woman because their energy says that, you know what, to the woman, they're saying that it's not you, I'm unsure of my value. And they don't realize how it happens when they stutter their words, when they're not holding eye contact, when they're beating around the bush, when they're asking, interviewing questions, when they're sitting around wasting their time. I'll give you a prime example. I had a client that I talked to around, I don't know, it was around 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. He was overseas. And what that guy did was he didn't follow the instructions of the 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to change his mentality to be able to put his bid in versus approach a woman. But because he wanted to do things his way, he runs into a woman and then automatically goes back to his old mode of what he was by sitting around, chit-chat with her, talking about a bunch of nothing, wasting a bunch of time, rejecting himself. And then when the woman's ready to go, he wants to go ahead and talk to the woman and say to the woman, look, check this out. Why don't we exchange numbers? And what happened, what the woman did at that point said, hey, I have a boyfriend. And then he felt rejected and he felt really bad because he knew that everything he was doing was to set himself up for a downfall. And this is what a lot of guys don't understand. It's not the woman, it's the information that you're taking in about women. But when you realize the game is not about women, I think a lot of guys go so wrong in that because they assume that if I know more about the bad about women, that I'm going to be better with women. And that's not the case, because being better with a woman has to do with who you are as a man. And when you reject yourself and you don't believe in yourself, what a woman is going to actually see is she's going to notice the rhythm, your tone, your posture, your eye contact, your presence. And what most guys don't understand, and people on the internet that don't tell them, is that you say so many things to a woman before your words ever do. And that's where most of these guys go wrong. And this is where they always get the wrong idea about everything, because they're looking at everything, okay? And if you move like you don't belong, she's gonna treat you like you don't belong. If you move and you reject yourself, she's gonna treat you that way. And see, the problem is that so many guys have learned so many things what we call on paper. So what they'll do is they'll watch something and write it on paper like they did in high school from the comfort of their own home. They'll sit around and say, okay, this is what the guy said on the internet. This is how I'm going to talk to a woman. I'm going to write it down, and now I'm ready and good to go. But see, that's not the problem. You're writing something from the comfort of your own home, which means that there's no extra pressure, and that means that from your home, you actually think you're going to do it until it's time to get it done. Because once you step out and be around women and everything, you don't understand yourself, you don't believe yourself, you don't know who you are, then it's at that point you're going to have all these problems. It's going to be the one side of bad information coming in from the YouTube, bad information coming from IG, bad information coming from TikTok, the worry and threat of what a woman can do to you from the lies of the red pill that's going to come in, to the fact that you don't know yourself, you can't explain yourself, you don't believe in yourself. So you take all these things up, and then you get in front of a woman, then you're not going to do the thing that you actually wrote down, because you don't believe in yourself enough to even do that thing. Sure, you believed in it when you were at home in the comfort of your own home, but now that you're not home and you're out there by yourself, then you're going to actually see the problem. And then when you see the problem, which a lot of guys see the problem, this is where everything goes wrong. Because when they actually see that problem, it's a little bit too late. And then from that problem, they get mad at themselves, because they just feel like when they get around the woman, that because they don't know themselves very well, then they start treating women like she's the prize, okay? And when you start treating a woman like she's the prize, she's going to treat you as something that is disgusting to her, because she doesn't want to be treated like a prize. She wants to be treated like a regular ass woman. That's it, period. But again, when you don't have the game and you listen to bad information, you're going to do everything you can to try to impress. So guys are going to try to impress women. Guys are going to try to prove themselves, and they try to win her over and over again. But see, the moment, and I think a lot of guys don't understand this, the moment you try to impress a woman, you actually lose, because women are not looking for guys to try to impress them. They're looking for a man to actually be what we call impressive. And that's the problem. But how do we actually turn this around and flip that dynamic? The first thing we have to do is we have to stop trying to get in, okay? We got to start trying to win a woman's approval. We got to stop trying to win a woman's validation and all that other stuff. We have to stop trying to get in. It is a moment that you have to decide that you are the one with the gate versus running and knocking at her gate. Women do not chase guys that chase them. They just don't. They never will. Women are going to chase a man that doesn't give them access. That is why when I meet a woman and you learn the game, that is why I will always invite a woman to be selected. That's it. I'm not trying to sleep with her. I'm not trying to manipulate her. I'm not trying to tell her what she wants to hear. I'm just going to let her know who I am. But that's going to throw her off the algorithm, because I choose me first. And because I choose myself, then I would decide on her. But what I say for all you guys, before you even start to do this, you've got to back off all that theory and all the stuff that you hear on the internet, because everything you hear on the internet is not true. You got to be able to explain yourself to a woman without forcing desperation or showing there's some kind of neediness. As a man, you should not be needy at all. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I know many of you guys out here are struggling right now because many of you guys are trying to find the right words to say. You're trying to find the right things to do. But the worst thing about all of this, you're not trying to find yourself. And the fact that you're not trying to find yourself, that means anything that you do beyond that stuff is not going to work. It is not going to work for you at all. And I think so many guys mess up at that point. There's so many guys actually try to believe in the fairy tale that I can cheat the game. You cannot cheat the game. It's the one thing I stress you guys. You cannot cheat the game. But yet you're always trying to find a gimmick, a trick, or something like that. And then when things will go wrong, what your mind is going to do is force you down that red pill that tunnel to find an excuse to why she didn't like you. She didn't like you because the truth of the matter is most of you guys just don't like yourselves. Because think about this. If you actually liked yourself, why would you try to find another man's gimmick versus create your own authenticity? You see what I'm saying? I think that most guys don't even think beyond that point because they just have this certain expectation that it's like a video game. If I find a cheat code in a video game, that's going to get me better, faster rank and things like that. But you can't use a cheat code when it comes to women. You've got to be the code, okay? You got to learn how to be calm in who you are and stay grounded in who you are and actually be centered in who you are, because if you're not going to win in all this stuff. And the reason why I draw them in and the reason why my clients draw them in is because I'm the desire. I'm not trying to create something that I am. I desire me. I know how to create a desire. I am the desire, and I give you an opportunity to be a part of my desire. I am not desiring you. The moment you begin to desire her, gentlemen, is where everything goes wrong, because it is in that desire is where the fear and everything is going to mess you up. When you actually desire the woman, there's nothing wrong with wanting to sleep with her, but desiring her is going to turn everything upside down and inside out, because your interpretation of things is going to be totally different. It's going to be totally different. And what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I am not going to desire, I'm not going to chase. All I'm going to do is invite. That is all I'm going to do, is invite her. And then I'm going to allow her to decide what she wants to do. As long as I am in control and doing that, I'm not going to have a problem. I'm not going to get rejected because I'm just going to present myself the right way to the woman. And that's going to be the difference. And that is going to be my authenticity. You can't fake this, okay? I can never trick a woman into wanting me, okay? You actually got to believe in yourself. And it's not that affirmation or motivation that says, I'm enough as I am, I'm good, and all this other stuff. It's that you got to actually believe, but you cannot believe trying to be somebody else. And I think that's the biggest issue. The moment you try to pretend to be somebody else, using somebody's lines and tricks and everything like that, you're taken away from who you are. That's why we always teach you to think for yourself. I don't mind putting the weapons on the table for you as long as you understand the rules of the weapons. No rushing, no explaining, no contradiction, no rejection. And when you start to do those things, everything at that point actually begins to change for you guys, because then you have a different interpretation of everything. And when you have a different interpretation of everything, that's how the reality is actually going to change, gentlemen. So just remember, for many guys out there, They're just gonna go into 2026 believing that dating is hard. Dating is not hard. Women are not hard. It's just you don't believe in yourself. And you rather just say a lie and say these women are this thing versus go and see that I'm actually the problem. But I'm not, again, you're not the problem. It's just the way you think about yourself is actually the problem. So just remember that, guys. Now, gentlemen, that's going to be the end of our video, but not the end of our discussion. Let me know what you think in the comments. But gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love this video right here that I have beside me, guys. I hope that this video helped you guys get a better interpretation of yourselves. I look forward to hear from you soon, man, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.